At Starbound, we tell stories the human way, not with artificial voices or AI slop. In the end, what's HFY without humanity? Subscribe to keep it this way. My name's GeneralG. Let's begin. I'm sorry to say this, little buddy, the human ambassador began from his seat at the Galactic Council meeting, but you won't last 3 seconds. Abby's antennae drooped as the words washed over him. He stood atop the massive council table, his small paws gripping the edge of the microphone stand that had been specially adjusted to accommodate his diminutive stature. The table stretched out around him like a vast plateau, and he could see the faces of dozens of species watching him from their seats in the amphitheater-style chamber. His bright orange fur bristled in indignation. His big, dark eyes watched as he processed what the human had just said, and the fluffy pom-poms at the tip of his antennae quivered as he tried to suppress his rage. Being forced to stand on the table just to be seen at all had been humiliating enough. The Sativ were new to the Galactic Council, and the negotiations to join had been a months-long ordeal of being spoken to in condescending tones and generally treated like adorable pets rather than sentient beings with their own culture and achievements. Abby and his people had collectively decided that enough was enough. The moment they were officially granted membership and given the floor to speak, they would declare war on the most powerful species in the chamber. It was a calculated move designed to earn respect through demonstration of courage and martial prowess. Abby had spent hours studying the dossiers of every species present. He'd memorized their military capabilities, their territories, their temperaments. And he'd made his choice: the humans. They were legendary warriors, survivors of a death world called Earth, masters of violence. They were the species that made the other species nervous. If the Sativ could challenge them and prove themselves worthy opponents, every other member of the council would have to take notice. So, Abby had stood there on the table, his tiny chest puffed out as far as his furball body would allow, and declared formal war on humanity. He used every traditional phrase from Sativ warrior culture, invoking the names of their ancient heroes and promising to descend upon Earth like a storm of claws and fury. He'd expected shock, perhaps even fear. What he got instead was this casual dismissal, this patronizing little buddy nonsense, and the assertion that his entire species wouldn't last 3 seconds against humanity. Worse than that, though, was the reaction from everyone else. Abby's large eyes scanned the chamber, taking in the spectacle of universal mockery. The Aquarians in their water-filled environmental suits were producing steams of bubbles, their translucent bodies rippling with what could only be laughter. The Avian Cree delegation was worse. Their high-pitched squeaking filled the air as their elaborate head crests stood fully erect, a sign of extreme amusement in their culture. Even the Morphids, usually so dignified in their carefully maintained bipedal forms, had lost their composure. 3 of them had literally melted into puddles of gelatinous goo on their seats, their bodies shaking with what Abby assumed was the blob equivalent of hysterical laughter. "You all laugh now," Abby declared, his voice amplified by the microphone but still higher pitched than he would have liked. "But in 2 days, the Sativ warrior fleet will descend upon Earth. We will challenge the humans to honorable combat, warrior to warrior. We will prove our prowess with both blade and technology. We will claim the treasures of their world as proof of our victory." His antennae straightened, pom-poms rigid with determination. "You mock us for our size, but size means nothing in the face of courage and skill. When we stand victorious over the defeated humans, when we return with the spoils of Earth, you will all see. You will regret your laughter. You will beg for our forgiveness, and you will never, ever underestimate the sativ again." He'd practiced that speech for hours. It had sounded so much more impressive in his quarters. Now came the dramatic exit, which Abby had not fully thought through. The table was easily 3 times his height. He'd been lifted up here by a mechanical platform, which was still sitting nearby, but required him to walk to it. Maintaining his dignity while marching across the vast expanse of the table, still within clear view of everyone, would have been challenging enough. But he was so angry, so determined to storm off, that he simply turned and began walking toward the edge of the table, fully intending to leap off in a display of athletic prowess. He made it about 3 steps before he realized his mistake. Peering over the edge, he saw the floor far below. Very far. He froze, his tail twitching nervously behind him. The laughter in the chamber intensified. "Does the mighty warrior need help getting down?" one of the Cree called out, setting off another wave of squeaking. Abby's fur fluffed out even more, if that was possible. He turned around with as much dignity as he could muster and walked stiffly toward the platform, his small legs moving in quick, angry steps. Behind him, he could hear the voices of the council members. "They're going to Earth! Those Deathworlders are going to eat them alive!" That was one of the Aquarians, their voice bubbling with laughter. "Remember the Zoraxian probe that landed there? Destroyed in minutes," another voice added. "I once saw a human tear apart a Kravik war machine with their bare hands because it was making annoying sounds," someone else chimed in. "These poor furballs don't stand a chance." "At least they'll die bravely," said a Morphid, in a tone that suggested they found even that notion amusing. "Well, probably not bravely, probably screaming, but we can tell people it was brave." 10 credits says they don't even make it out of their landing craft. 20 says they take one look at Earth from space and go back." The voices faded as Abby stepped onto the platform and began his descent. He kept his head high, his antennae proud, refusing to show any sign that their words had affected him. But one thing did puzzle him as he reached the floor and marched toward the exit. Throughout all the laughter, all the mockery, all the jokes at his expense, he'd noticed that the human ambassador himself had remained completely silent. The tall, dark-haired man had simply sat in his chair, watching Abby with an expression that the small warrior couldn't quite interpret. It wasn't mockery, it wasn't amusement, it was something else. That observation did nothing to dampen Abby's resolve. If anything, it strengthened it. The human was probably worried, realizing that his species was about to face real warriors for the first time. In 2 days, Abby would prove everyone wrong. In 2 days, the sativ would show the entire galaxy what they were made of. In 2 days, Earth would fall. 2 days passed in a blur of preparation. Abby had personally overseen the assembly of the fleet, the finest warriors the sativ homeworld had to offer. 300 ships, each crewed by 20 warriors, all equipped with the latest in sativ military technology. It wasn't the largest fleet in the galaxy, but it was mobile and crewed by individuals burning with the need to prove themselves. Now, as the blue-green marble of Earth filled the view screen of the command ship, Abby felt a surge of pride and anticipation. Around him, the bridge crew moved quickly, their small paws interacting with controls that had been designed specifically for their size. To his left stood GeneralG, his purple fur marked with the white strips of a veteran warrior. To his right was General Izzy, her bright pink fur indicating she was from the northern territories of the sativ homeworld, where the fiercest warriors traditionally came from. "Approaching the outer atmosphere," reported the navigator, a young male named Pip, whose green fur still had the brightness of youth. "All ships reporting ready status." "Excellent," Abby said, his voice steady despite the excitement coursing through his small body. He stood on a raised platform in the center of the bridge. Everything was designed to accommodate their size, thankfully, and activated the fleet-wide communications. It was time for the traditional conquest speech, the kind that leaders of the Sativ had delivered before every major battle since their species could remember. "Warriors of the Sativ!" Abby's voice rang out across all 300 ships. "Today we write history. Today we prove to the galaxy that size means nothing in the face of courage and skill. The other species of the Council look at us and see small, fluffy creatures. Today we show them the truth." On the view screen, he could see inside some of the other ships. Thousands of furball warriors, each in their enhanced bodysuits that doubled their strength, carrying both traditional curved blades and modern laser rifles. They stood at attention, their antennae rigid, their eyes fixed on their screens. "We descend upon Earth, the legendary death world of humanity," Abby continued. "But do not let their reputation frighten you. Yes, they are larger than us. Yes, they come from a harsh world, but so do we. Our homeworld has almost exactly Earth's gravity. We will not be at a disadvantage. We will feel as strong there as we do here. If anything, we have the advantage, for our technology is just as advanced as theirs, and our warriors are twice as determined." A cheer erupted across the fleet, thousands of high-pitched voices screaming their enthusiasm. "The Galactic Council laughed at us," he shouted. "They mocked our declaration. But today, we become legends. Today, we claim victory over humanity itself." The cheering intensified. Abby could see warriors on other ships brandishing their weapons, bouncing in excitement. General Lax was nodding approvingly beside him, while General Izzy had her tiny fist raised in a gesture of solidarity. "We are small, but we are mighty," Abby declared. "We are few, but we are brave. We are Sativ, and today the galaxy learns to respect that name." The fleet erupted in war cries. Abby cut the transmission and turned to his generals, his chest heaving with emotion. Before he could speak, voices started coming through the comms from various ships. "Those council bastards won't be laughing after this," came the voice of Captain Zix from Ship 7. "I'm going to enjoy proving those pompous Aquarians wrong," added Commander Frill from Ship 19. "Bubbling at us like we're some kind of joke." A female voice cut through the chatter, coming from Ship 40. "Commander Abby, I have a question. What will we do with the humans after we defeat them?" Abby straightened, recognizing the voice of Captain Mira, one of his most respected warriors. "An excellent question, Captain. We will leave them be, of course." There was a moment of silence on the comms. "Leave them be, sir?" Mira asked, her tone confused. "Of course," Abby replied as if it were obvious. "We're not monsters. We'll prove our superiority in combat, claim some of their treasures as proof of our victory, and then depart. They can keep their planet. We don't want the other species to think we're cruel conquerors. We're warriors seeking respect, not tyrants seeking domination." General Lax leaned closer, his voice low and concerned. "Commander, are you sure about that? I mean, what if the humans see our mercy as weakness? What if the Council thinks we went soft?" "Nonsense," Abby said firmly. "Showing restraint and honor will only increase the respect they have for us. We're not barbarians." General Izzy looked equally worried, her pink fur rippling with anxiety. "But, Commander, what if they refuse to tell the Council that we conquered Earth? What if they just say we landed, got scared, and left?" "They won't be able to say that," Abby assured her. "We have defeated them in combat. We have their treasures. The evidence will speak for itself." Both generals exchanged a glance that suggested they weren't entirely convinced, but they said nothing more. The fleet continued its descent, breaking through Earth's atmosphere. The ships were designed for smooth entry, and within minutes, they had a clear view of the surface below. "Scanning for optimal landing site," reported Pip from his navigation station. "Looking for an area that will demonstrate our power while allowing for proper challenge protocols." "What about there?" General Lax pointed to the main view screen, where a large green space was visible in the middle of what appeared to be a human settlement. "That open area in their settlement. It appears to be some kind of gathering space." "Running detailed scans," Pip said, interacting with the controls. After a moment, his ears flattened against his head. "Commander, I'm detecting human life signs in that area. Multiple family groups. There appear to be human young present." Abby frowned, his antennae dipping thoughtfully. "Human children? We certainly can't land there. We don't want to frighten the young ones. That would be cruel, and worse, it would make us look like bullies. Is there a suitable landing area that's free of civilians?" Pip's scan continued. "Yes, Commander. There's an area approximately half a kilometer away that appears to be completely clear. Still within the same green space, but isolated from the human population centers." "Perfect," Abby decided. "We'll land there first, establish our position, and then transmit our formal challenge to the human warriors. We'll give them the opportunity to meet us in honorable combat. If they accept, we fight. If they surrender, well, that would be disappointing, but still a victory." "You really think they'll just surrender?" General Izzy asked skeptically. "Of course not," Abby replied. "They're humans. They're supposed to be fierce warriors. They'll accept the challenge, fight bravely, but ultimately lose. And then we'll all go home having earned respect. That's how these things work." General Lax's expression suggested he thought their commander might be oversimplifying things, but he merely nodded. "Setting landing protocols now. All ships prepare for ground deployment." The fleet descended in formation. 300 ships, creating an impressive display, as they approached the clearing Pip had identified. The landing was textbook perfect, each ship touching down with minimal impact, arranged in neat rows that would have made any military academy instructor proud. The ships themselves were small by galactic standards, each about the size of a human shuttle, but together they created an impressive sight. "Landing successful," Pip reported. "All ships confirm secure positions. External sensors show Earth's gravity is 0.974 of our home standard, well within comfort range." "Excellent," Abby said. "Environmental analysis?" "Atmosphere is compatible. Temperature is mild. No immediate threats detected." Pip paused. "Commander, I am detecting various biological signals in the surrounding area, flora and fauna." "Perhaps just local wildlife," Abby said dismissively. "Nothing we can't handle." The three commanders made their way to the hatch, their enhanced bodysuits glowing with power. The suits were impressive, form-fitting armor that augmented their strength, provided environmental protection, and looked intimidating despite their small size. Each suit was decorated according to rank, with Abby's featuring golden trim and the crest of the Sativ Military Council. "Open the latch," Abby commanded, his voice steady and fearless. The hatch cycled open with a hiss of equalizing pressure, and a ramp extended downward. Bright sunlight flooded the interior of the ship, and for a moment, Abby had to blink against the glare. Then his eyes adjusted, and he got his first real look at Earth. It was green, incredibly, overwhelmingly green. The grass stretched out in all directions, each blade swaying in a gentle breeze. But what struck Abby most was the sheer scale of everything. The trees surrounding the clearing were enormous, towering giants that made the trees of his homeworld look like saplings. Their trunks were as thick as some Sativ buildings, and their branches reached up toward a sky that seemed impossibly vast and blue. By the ancestors, General Lax breathed beside him. Those trees are massive. General Izzy had frozen at the bottom of the ramp, staring up at the vegetation around them. I've never seen plants so large. Do you think all Earth plants are like this? Abby forced his fur to lie flat, refusing to show intimidation. Well, of course they're large. The humans are large, remember? It makes sense that their vegetation would match their scale. Besides, size means nothing. A large tree is no more threatening than a small one. Let's proceed. The three commanders stepped off the ramp and onto Earth's surface. The grass beneath their feet was strange, soft, but also slightly sharp. Each blade much thicker than the delicate ground cover of their homeworld. Abby took a deep breath of Earth's air, finding it rich and slightly sweet, carrying scents he couldn't identify. Environmental conditions are excellent, he announced, his voice filled with confidence. The gravity feels natural. The air is fresh. This is a fine world for battle. I can see why the humans are proud of it. Should we call the rest of the troops out? General Lax asked. Let's do a quick perimeter check first, Abby decided. Make sure there are no immediate surprises. Then we'll... A high-pitched scream cut through the air, coming from their comms. Commander! Commander! I've been wounded! All three commanders froze. Abby activated his comm link immediately. Report! What's your status? It's Private Zim, sir, from Ship 12. The voice was panicked, speaking so quickly that the words ran together. I stepped outside for preliminary recon like you ordered, and I cut my foot on this grass thing. It's sharp, sir. The grass is sharp. I'm bleeding. I need a medic. Abby closed his eyes and counted to 3, trying to maintain his composure. Behind him, he could hear General Izzy making a sound that might have been a suppressed laugh. Private Zim, he said slowly and clearly, you cut your foot on grass? It's really sharp grass, sir. Send a medic to Ship 12, Abby ordered, then switched to a private channel with his generals. What an idiot! Wounded by grass. And I'm supposed to lead these troops to victory? To be fair, General Lax said, he's probably just nervous, but he is an idiot. The humans probably have idiots in their armies, too, Abby muttered dismissively. Come on, let's continue the survey. They moved forward carefully, their small legs carrying them through the grass that came up to their shoulders. It was slow going, and Abby was starting to appreciate why the humans were so tall. Navigating this vegetation would be much easier with longer limbs. Still, they pressed on, making it about 20 meters from the ship before they heard another scream. Sir, there's a creature, some kind of flying thing. I think it's a bird. Abby spun around, trying to locate the source of the commotion. He could see several ships with their hatches open now, warriors cautiously emerging to explore. One warrior, his yellow fur bright against the green grass, was pointing upward at something in the air. It's small, the warrior shouted. I'm going to investigate. Back home, all flying creatures are friendly. This is probably similar. Wait, Abby started to say, but he was too far away, and the warrior couldn't hear him. The warrior reached up toward the flying creature, which Abby could now see was fuzzy and striped with yellow and black. It was indeed quite small, hovering in the air near a tall, flowering plant. The warrior's paw made contact with the creature. The creature's reaction was immediate and violent. It dove toward the warrior, and even from this distance, Abby could see the warrior jerk back, clutching his paw. Then the screaming really started. It stabbed me! The bird stabbed me! It's still stabbing me! Why is it so angry? The warrior was now running in circles, waving his paw in the air while the tiny creature pursued him with single-minded determination. Other warriors nearby were scattering, clearly unsure whether to help or flee. The scene would have been comical if it weren't so concerning. That's not a bird, General Izzy observed. Birds have feathers. That thing is... I don't know what that is. It's hostile, whatever it is, General Axe added. Should we open fire? On a creature that small? Abby shook his head. We'd look ridiculous. Send another medic, and someone tell that warrior to stop trying to make friends with Earth's wildlife until we know more about it. It took several minutes to resolve the situation. The creature, which Pip later identified from the database as something called a bee, eventually flew away, apparently satisfied with the punishment it had delivered. The wounded warrior was treated and sent back to his ship to recover, though his pride was probably more injured than his paw. Note to all troops, Abby announced over the fleet-wide channel, do not touch any Earth creatures until we have confirmed they are safe. Apparently, even their smallest life forms can be aggressive. Commander? Pip's voice came through on his private channel. Should I transmit the challenge to the humans now? Abby looked around at the clearing. About 24 warriors had now emerged from various ships, all standing in small groups and staring at the alien environment with a mixture of wonder and apprehension. It was time to get this operation back on track. Yes, transmit the challenge. Use the standard diplomatic frequency. Tell them that the Sativ warrior fleet has arrived to challenge them to honorable combat. Tell them we await their response in this location. Are transmitting now, sir. There was a pause. Message sent and confirmed, received by Earth's communication network. Excellent. Now we wait for the human warriors to arrive. Abby walked back toward his ship, gesturing for more troops to disembark. Everyone out! Form up! Make it look impressive! The humans will be here soon, and they need to see that we're serious. Warriors began pouring out of the ships, creating a growing sea of colorful furballs and combat suits. They arranged themselves in loose formations, weapons at the ready, antennae quivering. Abby positioned himself at the front, flanked by his generals, trying to project an image of confidence. Minutes passed, then more minutes. Abby began to wonder if the humans had received the message properly. Maybe their communication systems were different than expected. Maybe they needed more time to translate. Maybe... Contact! Something's moving in the bushes! The shout came from the left flank of the formation. Abby spun around, his paw going to his weapon. Where? Show me! There, sir. In those bushes at the edge of the clearing. I saw something move. Something big. All eyes turned toward the indicated location. The bushes in question were dense and tall, providing excellent cover for whatever was behind them. Abby could see movement. Something was definitely there. His heart raced. This was it. The humans were trying to ambush them, using the terrain to their advantage. It was a clever tactic, one he could respect. Warriors at the ready, Abby commanded. Prepare for contact. If they want to play games, we'll show them what Sativ warriors can do. The bushes rustled more violently. Something was pushing through them, something low to the ground but clearly strong. Abby raised his laser rifle, sighting down the barrel. Around him, hundreds of other warriors did the same, creating a wall of firepower aimed at those bushes. The creature emerged. It was probably the same size as a Sativ covered in fur, orange fur with white patches and distinctive stripes of darker orange. It had 4 legs, a long tail, pointed ears, and green eyes that fixed on the assembled warriors. It opened its mouth and made a sound. Meow? For a moment, absolute silence reigned. The creature, whatever it was, took a few steps forward, its tail raised high, still making small chirping sounds. It didn't look particularly aggressive. In fact, it looked curious, its head tilting to one side as it examined the crowd of small armed furballs. Is that a human weapon? Whispered General Izzy. It's moving on 4 legs, General Axe pointed out. It must be their battle creature, Abby decided. They've sent this beast to test us before they arrive themselves. Stay alert! Don't let your guard down! The creature padded closer, now within 5 meters of the front line. Several warriors backed up nervously. The creature sat down and began to clean its face with one paw, completely unconcerned with the weapons pointed in its direction. Should we fire, sir? Asked one of the nearby warriors. Hold your fire, Abby commanded. Let's see what it does. What it did was stand up, stretch extensively, and then walk directly toward the warriors. Specifically, it walked toward a warrior on the left flank, a young female named Kira, whose green fur was fluffed out in fear. It's coming for me, Kira squeaked. Whoa, what do I do? Abby shouted, Defend yourself! Kira, more out of panic than any real tactical thinking, swung her rifle around and fired a shot. The laser bolt struck the creature on its side. Against their own species, that type of weapon could punch through fur. Instead, the creature's fur merely showed a small scorch mark. The creature's reaction was immediate. It hissed, its ears flattening against its head, and swiped at Kira with one paw. Kira screamed. The creature's claws left 3 parallel scratches across her bodysuit. The suit's energy shields sparked but held, though Kira was knocked backward by the force of the blow. The creature, apparently scarred and slightly wounded, turned and bounded away, disappearing back into the bushes as quickly as it had appeared. Medic! Abby shouted. Someone get a medic to Kira! Oh, I'm okay, sir, Kira called out, though her voice was shaky. The suit took most of it, but that thing was strong. What kind of battle creature takes a direct hit from a laser rifle and barely notices? GeneralG said, his voice low and secretive. Commander, I don't think that was a human weapon. I think that might have been a local predator. A predator? Abby's antennae drooped. You mean the humans didn't send it? The humans haven't responded to our challenge at all yet, GeneralG pointed out. I think that was just an animal, a wild animal. Abby considered this information carefully. On one hand, it was concerning that a random Earth predator was that strong and aggressive. On the other hand, if the troops knew that they'd just been attacked by a random wildlife rather than human weapons, morale might suffer. Keep that assessment between us, Abby told his generals quietly. As far as the troops know, that was a test from the humans. We passed. They saw we could defend ourselves, and now they'll take us seriously. Both generals nodded, though neither looked entirely convinced. The warriors were already talking among themselves, some expressing pride at having driven off the human battle beast, others looking nervously at the bushes, as if expecting more creatures to emerge. Abby was about to address the troops when movement at the far end of the clearing caught his eye. This time, it wasn't an animal. A figure emerged from behind a large tree, and even from this distance, Abby could tell it was human. The being was tall, impossibly tall from a sativ perspective, with dark hair and wearing what appeared to be formal attire rather than combat gear. Behind him, several other humans emerged, all wearing identical black suits. There, Abby breathed. The humans have arrived. Finally! The human raised his hand in what might have been a greeting or might have been a signal. Abby decided to interpret it as a gesture of parley. He activated his suit's external speakers. Warriors of the Sativ, he announced. Weapons ready. The humans are here. Prepare for honorable combat. 300 laser rifles raised simultaneously. All pointed at the approaching humans. The humans kept walking, apparently unconcerned with the display of firepower. As they got closer, Abby recognized the one in front. It was the ambassador from the Galactic Council, the one who had said they wouldn't last 3 days. The human stopped about 10 meters away from the Sativ formation. He looked around at the assembled warriors, his expression unreadable. Then he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Thanks for avoiding the children," the human said, his voice easily carrying across the clearing. "I saw your ships come in, and I was worried you'd land near the playground. With all that fluffy fur, it would have been a disaster." Abby bristled at the implication. They were not brutes who would hurt children. "We are not monsters who would attack the young ones," he declared, his voice amplified by his suit's speakers. "We are warriors. We came here to fight human warriors in honorable combat. We seek to prove ourselves against the best you have to offer." He gestured dramatically with one small paw at the assembled troops behind him. "You claimed at the council meeting that we would not last 3 seconds on Earth. Well, we have been here for over an hour now. We have survived your harsh environment and even your predators. We are still standing, still ready to fight. Your words have been proven false." The humans exchanged glances. Abby interpreted their expressions as fear. Clearly, they were realizing they had underestimated the Sativ. The ambassador looked at one of his companions, then back at Abby, and his mouth tense in what might have been suppressed emotion. "I see," the ambassador said slowly. "You've survived for an hour. That's very impressive." "It is," Abby agreed. "And now we call upon you to fulfill the terms of our challenge. We face each other in battle, warrior to warrior. Get your weapons ready, humans, because we are about to engage in honorable warfare." He raised his own rifle dramatically. "The Sativ are ready. We follow the warrior path. We embrace glorious combat." Behind him, 300 warriors shouted their agreement, creating a cacophony of high-pitched war cries that echoed across the clearing. It was an impressive display, Abby thought. The humans had to be at least somewhat intimidated. The ambassador stood there for a long moment, just staring at them. Then he closed his eyes briefly, his shoulders slumping slightly. When he opened them again, he looked directly at Abby. "You know what?" the ambassador said. "You're right. You've proven yourselves. We surrender." The war cries stopped abruptly, replaced by confused silence. Abby's antennae drooped in bewilderment. Around him, he could hear warriors whispering to each other, equally confused. "You... what?" Abby managed to say. "We surrender," the ambassador repeated. "You win. You can tell the Galactic Council that you conquered Earth. Congratulations." Abby looked at his generals. General Lax looked baffled. General Izzy looked suspicious. Behind them, the army was dissolving into confusion, warriors looking at each other and trying to figure out what had just happened. "That's it?" Abby asked, his voice rising in pitch. "You're just gonna surrender? Just like that? No fight?" "You already proved yourselves," the ambassador said. "You made it here, survived Earth's environment. That's more than most species manage on their first visit. We're impressed. You win." Abby's mind raced. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. The whole point was to engage in combat, to demonstrate Sativ martial prowess, to earn respect through battle. A surrender without fighting proved nothing. In fact, it might make things worse. The council would just say the humans had humored them, that they'd never taken the threat seriously enough to actually fight back. "No!" Abby declared, his small paw pointing accusingly at the ambassador. "You don't get to escape that easily. We came here for honorable combat. We came here to prove ourselves. If we return with nothing but your words, no one will believe us. We need proof. We need to plunder something. Take some of your treasures back with us." The ambassador frowned, seeming genuinely confused by this demand. He scratched his head, looking at his companions as if seeking suggestions. They shrugged or shook their heads, equally at a loss. For several long seconds, the ambassador just stood there, thinking. Then his eyes widened, and his face lit up with what looked like sudden inspiration. "I know," he said, snapping his fingers. "I know exactly where to take you. There's a treasure box nearby, a place where humanity keeps one of our most valuable substances. It's something we cherish deeply, something we save up resources to obtain. If you plunder our food from there, everyone will have to believe you conquered us. Come on, I'll take you there right now." Abby considered this carefully. A treasure box containing humanity's most valuable food substance? That did sound impressive. And if the humans were willing to hand it over as proof of their defeat, well, that would certainly serve as evidence for the council. "Very well," Abby agreed. "Take us to this treasure box. We will claim its contents as proof of our victory." "Excellent," the ambassador said, and there was something in his smile that Abby couldn't quite interpret. "Oh, by the way, my name is George Hampton. I'm the human ambassador to the Galactic Council, but you probably knew that already." "I am Commander Abby of the Sativ Warrior Fleet," Abby replied formally. "These are Generals Lax and Izzy, and behind us are finest warriors." "Pleased to meet you all," George said, somehow managing to sound sincere. He gestured to his companions. "These are my security team. They're going to set up a perimeter while I take you to the treasure. Just make sure that none of your warriors accidentally hurt any civilians." Abby nodded approvingly. "A wise precaution. We wouldn't want any humans to stumble into our army and panic. They might get hurt trying to flee from our imposing presence." George's expression did something complicated, but he just nodded. "Exactly. That's exactly what I'm worried about. All right, follow me. It's not far." The men in black suits quickly moved into position around the clearing, creating a loose perimeter. Abby noticed that several of them were speaking into small devices and occasionally looking at the tree line with concerned expressions. Clearly, they were worried about Earth civilians seeing the Sativ army and being overwhelmed with fear. It made sense. The humans probably didn't want mass panic in their park. George led Abby, the two generals, and a contingent of about 50 warriors. Abby thought it was wise to leave the majority of the force with the ships. Across the clearing toward a paved pathway. As they walked, Abby could see other humans in the distance. Individuals and small groups, moving along other paths. Some with what appeared to be Earth pets on leashes. Several of them had stopped and were staring at the procession of small, furry warriors marching behind the tall human in the suit. "Are those teddy bears?" Abby heard one human say to another. "I think they're aliens," the other responded. "Look, they have little spacesuits." "Oh my God, they're so cute!" Abby's fur bristled. Cute. They thought warriors were cute. He forced himself to focus on the mission. Soon, they would have the humans' treasure, and then no one would dare call them cute again. George led them down the path and around a corner, where a small white vehicle was parked near the edge of the path. It was roughly rectangular, with bright colors painted on its side, and a window at one end. As they approached, Abby could see that the side of the vehicle bore images of frozen treats and cheerful text. "Here we are," George announced, gesturing at the vehicle. "Humanity's treasure box." Abby looked at it skeptically. This is where you keep your most valuable food substance?" "Absolutely," George said with a straight face. "We call these mobile treasure repositories ice cream trucks, and they contain one of humanity's most beloved food items, ice cream. It's so valuable that humans literally give up their currency just to obtain small portions of it. Children especially treasure it. They'll beg their parents for it, trade favors for it, do extra chores just to earn enough money to buy it. If that's not proof of value, I don't know what is." Abby exchanged glances with his generals. Ice cream. He'd never heard of it, but the way George described it, it did sound like something precious. And if human young ones craved it that intensely, it must be exceptional. Very well, Abby said. Show us this ice cream. George walked up to the window of the truck and spoke to the human inside, a woman with her hair pulled back in a colorful scarf. Abby couldn't hear the entire conversation, but he saw George hand over what looked like paper currency and gesture back at the small army of sative warriors waiting expectantly on the path. The woman's eyes went wide, and she leaned out of the window to get a better look. Her hand went to her mouth, and she made a high-pitched sound that Abby's translator interpreted as a squeal of delight. Then she started moving around inside the truck with great energy. "What's happening?" GeneralG asked quietly. "I think she's preparing the treasure for us," Abby replied. "Look at how quickly she's moving. She must be honored to provide it to warriors." George returned to the group, carrying several large containers. "All right, everyone, gather around. The treasure is served in individual portions, and it comes in different flavors, different tastes. I've got chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, mint chocolate chip, and cookie dough. I recommend trying a little of each to see what you prefer." The woman from the truck appeared with more containers. Her face split in an enormous smile. "Oh my goodness, they're adorable! Look at their little suits and the pom-poms on their antennae. Oh, I want to take them all home." Abby ignored the adorable comment and watched as George began distributing small portions of the ice cream to each warrior. The substance was cold, surprisingly cold, and came in various colors. Abby accepted a portion of the chocolate variety, which was dark brown and emitted a pleasant aroma. "Go ahead," George encouraged. "Try it." Abby took a small taste with the tiny spoon George had provided. His eyes widened immediately. The substance was cold, yes, but also sweet and rich and creamy and unlike anything he'd ever tasted on his homeworld. The flavor seemed to bloom in his mouth, coating his tongue with deliciousness. He took another bite, then another, suddenly unable to stop himself. Around him, similar reactions were rippling through the warrior contingent. Warriors were making sounds of amazement, their antennae quivering with pleasure. General Izzy had actually sat down on the pavement, cradling her container of strawberry ice cream like it was precious cargo. "By the ancestors," GeneralG breathed, his face covered in vanilla ice cream. "This is incredible. This is the best thing I've ever tasted." "The humans weren't lying," Abby said, scraping the last bit of chocolate from his container. "This truly is a treasure. No wonder they value it so highly. I would trade considerable resources for more of this." "Would you like more?" George asked, and there was something in his expression, a warmth perhaps, or maybe amusement, that made him look genuinely kind. "I think I bought enough for everyone to have seconds." For the next 20 minutes, the fierce, sative warrior army sat on the path in front of an ice cream truck, eating frozen treats with the enthusiasm of, well, children at a birthday party. Warriors tried different flavors, compared favorites, and generally forgot entirely that they were supposed to be fearsome conquerors. The woman from the truck kept making delighted sounds and taking pictures with her personal device. Finally, when the last container had been emptied and licked clean, Abby stood up and tried to reassemble his dignity. His face was sticky with chocolate, and his antennae pom-poms drooped with contentment. But he was still a commander and had a job to complete. "George Hampton," he said formally, "we accept this treasure as proof of Earth's surrender. When we return to the Galactic Council, we will present this as evidence of our victory." "I'm sure you will," George replied, his tone gentle. "And I promise you, Abby, I'll make absolutely certain that the Council treats you with respect from now on. In fact, at the next Council meeting, Your delegation will have seats right next to humanity's. We'll be allies, you and us, partners. How does that sound?" Abby's chest swelled with pride. "That sounds acceptable. We have proven ourselves in battle, or, well, in the warrior tradition of our people. We have claimed Earth's treasure, and now we have earned humanity's respect and friendship. This is a great day for the Sativ." "It absolutely is," George agreed. "You've handled Earth very well. Most species are like, Death World this and Death World that. It's really annoying." "We are true warriors. We don't fear Earth," Abby declared. He turned to his warriors. "Back to the ships. We return home victorious. The galaxy will hear of what we accomplished here today." The warriors cheered, though perhaps with less aggressive enthusiasm than before, mostly because they were all extremely full of ice cream and slightly sleepy from the sugar rush followed by the crash. They formed up and began marching back toward the clearing where the ships waited. As they walked, George kept pace beside Abby. "You know," the ambassador said conversationally, "if you ever want to visit Earth again, just as friends this time, you'd be welcome. We could show you around properly. Museums, restaurants, beaches, all sorts of things. I think you'd enjoy it." "Perhaps we will," Abby said, feeling generous in victory. "Perhaps we will. After all, we're allies now. Allies visit each other." "That we are," George said with a smile. "That we are." When they reached the clearing, Abby found the rest of his army waiting, weapons still at the ready, looking somewhat confused about why their commander and the advance party all had sticky faces and blissful expressions. Abby quickly ordered everyone back into the ships, unwilling to explain the details until they were safely off-world. The loading proceeded quickly, and soon the entire fleet was preparing for departure. As Abby sat in his command chair on the bridge, watching Earth begin to recede on the view screen, General Lax approached him. "Commander," the general said quietly, "do you think we actually conquered Earth?" Abby considered the question carefully. They hadn't fought any battles, they hadn't defeated any warriors, but they had landed on a death world, survived for over an hour, driven off a predator, received Earth's surrender, and claimed a treasure that was clearly precious to humanity. By the technical definition of conquest, they had succeeded. "Yes," he said finally, "we conquered Earth, we proved ourselves, and more importantly, we gained humanity's respect and friendship. That's what matters." "And the ice cream?" "The ice cream was a bonus," Abby admitted. "I wonder if we can establish trade relations for it." On the view screen, Earth had become a blue marble again, beautiful and mysterious. Somewhere down there, George Hampton was probably filing a report about the day's events. Abby wondered what that report would say. What spin humanity would put on this strange encounter. But it didn't really matter. The Sativ had come to Earth as warriors seeking respect. They were leaving as allies of humanity with bellies full of ice cream and heads held high. In the grand scheme of things, that seemed like a pretty good outcome. "Set course for home," Abby commanded. "We have a council meeting to prepare for. This time, when we speak, they'll listen. They'll respect us. And if they don't," he smiled, his small teeth glinting in the bridge lights, "well, we know where to get Earth's ice cream." The fleet jumped to hyperspace. 300 ships filled with proud warriors who had, in their own minds at least, conquered humanity's homeworld. And somewhere behind them, on a planet called Earth, a human ambassador filed a report titled, "First Contact with Sativ Species, Peaceful Resolution Through Creative Diplomacy and Chocolate Ice Cream," and wondered if anyone at headquarters would actually believe it. They probably wouldn't, but that was fine. Some victories were too strange to explain, too absurd to justify. Some victories just had to be experienced to be understood. And some victories tasted like chocolate ice cream on a sunny afternoon in the park.